Sean Sheridan. Sean, what a great name. Do you think 2023 being a year of such flops at the box office will force studios to reduce inflated budgets? I look at Fast X and Indiana Jones. They cost nearly $300 million budgets. Do I think that Hollywood will reduce inflated budgets after last year? I think they kind of have to. First off, even the two examples you gave, you are talking about two COVID in movies. One of the reasons some of those budgets were so ridiculously high is that almost all of the budgets for movies last year got inflated because of COVID protocols, COVID delays, and all of that, to where you're talking about making a production with thousands of people, big, gigantic movie stars, and they started working on them in 2021 when things were still a lot dicier. And so then if anyone got COVID, they'd have to shut down production. That just inflates prices. And so then they start bringing in people who their entire job is to just test the entire crew every single day and mask the entire crew every single day. That costs a lot of money. So you are talking about significant increases. So even if it was a 10% increase, that's significant, but not a gigantic bump. Well, if you're making a $200 million movie, 10%, 20 million bump. But it might have been more than that because of some of the gigantic delays. And like on Mission Impossible, like Tom Cruise paid to have a cruise ship that the whole crew lived on to try and bring down costs, and it was still $290 million. So you're probably talking about more than 10%, like 20% increases. It's like $40, $50 million bumps in your budget because of COVID complications. That's gone. We're not doing that anymore. COVID, not that it has disappeared from the universe. My wife had COVID a few weeks back. But COVID, the way that we thought of it in 2020, 2021, we're past that. But the other thing that was going on with those movies is you were coming off of the hot streak that was 2018, 2019, where every studio was just cranking out these movies that were making $1 billion. And we're making record numbers of billion-dollar films every year. 2019, Disney put out, 6 movies of their own that made $1 billion, plus they were associated with Spider-Man Far From Home, which also made $1 billion. So they kind of had 7 movies that were $1 billion club in 1 year. They had 0 last year. And they had a couple of them that seemed like maybe they could be or should be billion-dollar films. And they were in the same ballpark of movies that were easily billion-dollar films in 2019. All of a sudden, they're 500 million, 800 million in 2023. I think the studios have to look at that and go, this was stupid. Not every movie deserves to have a budget of over $200 million. Not everything needs a $150 million budget. So Disney in particular, you go, the Marvels, it's following up $1 billion film, but the excitement wasn't there years later. The excitement for Disney live action remakes was not where it was at back in 2019, where Aladdin and The Lion King both easily crossed $1 billion. And so Little Mermaid did not need to cost $250 million. An 80-year-old action star, just because Indiana Jones were the highest grossing movies in the 80s, that doesn't mean that they still are 40 years later. It's not the same thing. It's not the same thrill ride. So a $300 million budget, a $200 million budget never really seemed like a safe bet. And so they just spent too much money. They greenlit too much. I think Disney in particular, they're just throwing money away. They're just bad with money. Where they had so many movies make so much money that they just forgot how to have reasonable budgets. Now let's contrast this with Wonka and The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Each of those cost like $100 million. Ended up making $400 million. $400 million on $100 million, you're profitable. You're doing good. If Indiana Jones had cost $100 million, it would have been profitable. So many of these movies that are losing money, it's because they spent too much. Little Mermaid made $500 million. That's not a small amount of money unless you spend $250 million. If you spend $100 million, if you spend $125 million, all of a sudden The Little Mermaid is making $100 million for your studio. But Disney is just throwing money around, writing checks for everybody. They have to, unless they are insane, which maybe they are insane. You look at 2023 and you go, who thought these could be profitable at this price point? Like, all of us knew these were bad ideas. For some reason, they thought this was a good idea. But I mean, you look at the two movies that made over $1 billion. Super Mario Brothers cost like $100 million. Made 10 times its budget, which I don't even know if it overperformed. There were people that were guessing that movie could be the highest grossing film of the year. So Mario, it didn't really even overperform. It did that did what like a Super Mario Brother that actually catches the wave. That's not surprising that it made $1 billion. Mario is incredibly popular. I went to Universal this past weekend, went to Mario World, couldn't ride. Mario Kart, it's the only ride at Universal with a wait that was over an hour long. It was like 2 hours long the entire day. Waited the whole day to see if it would drop. It never dropped. Mario, very popular. Barbie, cost $150 million, made almost 10 times its budget. Once again, Barbie doesn't need to cost $300 million, didn't cost $300 million, so it made like over $500 million for Warner Brothers. Hundreds of millions of dollars because they spent a normal amount of money on the film. So I hope they're learning their lesson. And I don't think these movies are better because they're what they're doing. Like the Marvels, I've picked on the Marvels a lot. But if you go back to my original review, there's stuff that I liked about it. Iman Vellani, I think, is a lot of fun. The stuff in that movie that worked is the stuff that costs no money. Iman Vellani being charming and bantering with the other Marvels costs no money. The stuff in that film that didn't work is the stupid plot where it's like, we have to be cosmic and a whole planet's being destroyed and the Earth is being threatened, so we're planet hopping and we got to develop this planet, destroy this planet. All of that stuff cranks up your budget, and it's not the stuff that made the movie better. Like, what if it had been that's the problem with making Captain Marvel too powerful, but you have to have this gigantic threat. But what if part of this whole power swap thing is she loses her powers? So she has to get the help from the other two people. They're swapping powers or something like that. Like, find some excuse to nerf Captain Marvel because you made her too powerful. Make it a much smaller story. Cost $125 million. Your movie probably would have been a lot better. It would have made more money because it was better. But they didn't do that. Anyway, yeah, I am very frustrated with a lot of this stuff. Most of these clips are pulled from my Patreon live streams. I do about 6 live streams every single month for $2 per month, $20 per year. You can get access to all the exclusive videos and live streams for $5 per month. You get your name on my end card. At the top tier, you get a 30-minute video chat with me each month. The link down below in the description has more information.